So I just found out, like literally minutes ago, that Denis Johnson had passed away yesterday, and I'm just want to turn on the camera and just kind of try to process that. He was a writer that I liked a lot. I'd read Angels, Fiscadoro, this book a couple times, and I saw him read a couple times when he came to university over here. And yeah, Jesus' Son. This was published back in early 90s, and even then, not too long after that, this book was just lauded by everybody. He's just kind of considered a writer's writer, and I think it was sort of this, dirty realism type writing. Characters that are just down on their luck, drug addicts or people trying to recover. That whole storytelling with that type of character, which I didn't think was the remarkable thing about Denis Johnson for me. And this took a couple times of reading this book, was more the way he was telling the story. That it was very disjointed. I think back in the 90s, if I recall, the short stories were very structured in a very standardized way, and this fellow was writing kind of just breaking up the story. Sometimes he would stop in the middle of a story and go on a tangent, and then later on he might publish another story which was a continuation of that previous story. I really liked how he ended the first story. It was called Car Crash While Hitchhiking. Last sentence, fucking awesome. He goes on and describes the adventures of Fuckhead. I don't know if anyone's seen the movie. Denis Johnson made a cameo appearance. Kind of was a bad actor, but he was only in there for a couple seconds. This story here, Steady Hands at Seattle General. Is this the one where he says, talking to my bullet hole? There you go, talking to my bullet hole. Another fucking amazing ending. I don't really feel like he grew out of that tradition of being a minimalist writer, but this book, for some reason, was cut very close to the bone, and you could see some of those qualities as well when compared to his other novels. Last time I seen him was when it was around that time McSweeney's published in one of their volumes, which is a bunch of zines in a box, and one of the zines was one of his plays. I think it was called Shoplifters in Hell or Shoppers in Hell, something like that. Anyways, he gave a reading, and after the read, what the fuck? Rick Bass, Paget Powell. Holy shit. I love Paget Powell. Yeah, I'm actually reading one of his books. I'm actually going to do a review on one of his books here pretty soon. That's fucking awesome. He was either teaching a class or he was producing a play or something like that. And I think it was kind of a formal type event. They didn't really announce that you could go up and get an autograph or anything like that, but I went ahead and took the liberty. He went ahead and signed it graciously, but I got the sense that he didn't really care to do so, or he was more neutral about it. Oddly, I remember though he was looking off to the side, and then it kind of dawned on me that he was checking out the girl I was dating at the time, and I was like, and part of my mind was like, well, that's a little odd to do in front of somebody, but I was completely forgiving of that. Mostly because I was such a fan of his. Later I went to my girlfriend, I said, hey, why was he looking at you that way? What were you doing? And she was like, well, I was just ice grilling him. I was like, what? Why were you doing that? And she was like, well, it just was kind of disgusting to see you fawn over somebody so much. And so I wanted to just put out these really mean vibes towards him, just to see how he would react. And I was like, what? That's messed up. But yeah, now that I think about it, he was looking at her, returning her look with some sort of curiosity, I guess. It was more curiosity than anything. Like, what is this girl doing? And I said, well, since you guys locked gazes at each other, you had access to his soul for a couple seconds, and what did you think about him? What did you find out? And she was like, well, I could tell he was a person who was not unfamiliar with evil. Like, he had access to that realm. And I guess I could agree with that. I mean, I'd agree with that. Isn't that a prerequisite, though, of great writers to be able to see both sides of human nature? I just want to make this video just real quick and casual. Hopefully it wasn't too cheesy, but yeah, let me know if you guys also like Denis Johnson, and I'd be curious to know if like some of his later stuff how it compares to his earlier work, like if it was the same intensity and power, or if maybe it was a little bit of a loosening effect, or even more intense, because I'd like to catch up on some of the work, like Tree of Smoke and works like that. But yeah, Denis Johnson, rest in peace.